last time I saw my father alive, he didn't look at me. Not because he was angry. Not because I had done something wrong. But because someone in my own bloodline had decided I didn't exist anymore. When he died, I wasn't even allowed to attend his funeral. But what they didn't know was this. I had already seen the will. And everything he left behind had my name on it. Name and introduction. My name is Lily Carter. I'm 33 years old, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York, USA. At least, that's what I tell people. But the truth is, my life didn't start in Brooklyn. It started in silence, the kind of silence where your own family slowly deletes you like you never mattered. And this is the story of how I disappeared from my father's world. Only to return when it was already too late for them to fix anything. I grew up thinking my family was normal. We were not rich, not poor, just the kind of middle-class family that smiled in photos and argued behind closed doors. My father, Richard Carter, was a respected businessman. My mother, Elaine Carter, was the perfect society wife. My younger brother, Daniel, was the golden child. And me. I was the mistake they tolerated. It didn't happen suddenly. No dramatic explosion. No single fight that broke everything. It was slower. More surgical. First, I stopped being included in family dinners. Then, I stopped being mentioned in conversations. Then one day, I realized something terrifying. They were still a family. Just not with me in it. I remember the first time I noticed it clearly. It was a Sunday gathering at my father's house in Long Island. I arrived a little late from work. I was holding a small gift for my mother's birthday. When I entered, everyone looked at me like I had walked into the wrong house. My mother smiled politely. "Lily, you didn't have to come." That sentence should have meant warmth. Instead, it felt like a warning. My brother didn't even look up from his phone. And my father. He nodded once, like I was a guest. Not his daughter. From that day, something changed. I stopped receiving family group messages. Then I stopped being invited to events. Then I stopped existing in their social circle entirely. When relatives asked about me, my mother would say, "She's busy with her own life." But I was never busy enough to be forgotten. Only replaced. The replacement became obvious when Daniel started posting photos. Family dinners, vacations, celebrations. Every picture had 3 people smiling. Not 4. Never 4. I studied those images like evidence in a crime scene. Every missing detail was intentional. They had edited me out of their life the same way you crop someone out of a photo. Clean, quiet, permanent. The worst part was my father. Because I still loved him. Even when he stopped calling. Even when he stopped replying. Even when I showed up at his office once and his assistant said, "Mr. Carter is not available for personal matters." As if I was a stranger trying to sell something. I remember standing there, frozen, thinking, when did I become a personal matter instead of a daughter? Then came the real breaking point. The hospital call. Not for me. For him. My father had collapsed from a heart condition. I found out through a colleague, not my family. By the time I rushed to the hospital, they were already there. All of them. Except me. When I reached the ICU waiting area, I saw them through the glass. My mother holding Daniel's hand. Relatives comforting each other. A family preparing for loss. A family that didn't include me. I walked closer. My mother saw me first. Her face changed instantly. Not sadness. Not relief. Fear. She stood up and walked toward me. And said the words that would define everything that came after. "You shouldn't be here." I blinked. "He's my father." She lowered her voice. "No, not right now." I remember laughing once. A small broken sound. "Not right now." She didn't answer. She just turned away. That night, I stood outside the hospital for hours. No updates. No calls. No explanations. Only silence. And that was when I realized something irreversible. They were preparing something without me. Something final. 2 days later, my father died. I was at my apartment when I found out. Not a call from my mother. Not a message from my brother. It was a forwarded obituary from a distant relative. My hands went cold before my mind even processed it. I stared at the words. Richard Carter, beloved husband, father, and friend. Father. They used that word. But I wasn't listed under it. Not even as a footnote. I went to the funeral home anyway. Dressed in black. Heart racing. Hope dying slowly in my chest. When I arrived, a man at the entrance stopped me. Family only, he said. I am family. He checked a list. Then shook his head. I'm sorry, your name isn't here. That sentence. That one sentence. It didn't just stop me from entering. It erased me completely. I stood outside watching through the glass doors. I saw the ceremony. I saw people crying. I saw my father's coffin. And I saw my family sitting in the front row. Every seat filled. Except one. Mine. Empty on purpose. That was the moment something inside me didn't break. It changed. Because grief is one thing. But humiliation, that is something else entirely. And I understood then. This was not an accident. This was planned. After the funeral, I went back to the hospital records office. I don't even remember how I got access. But I found something. A document. A change in emergency contact. Signed 2 weeks before his death. My name was removed. Replaced. By Daniel. My own brother had legally replaced me. And my mother had approved it. That night, I sat alone in my apartment staring at that paper. My father had been alive. He had made a choice. Or someone had made it for him. Either way, I was cut out before he even took his last breath. And that was when I made a decision. Not to cry. Not to beg. Not to confront. But to understand. Because people don't erase you this cleanly without reason. And I wanted to know what I had missed. The day after the funeral, I expected silence. But instead, I received a letter. Not from my family. From a law firm in Manhattan. Carter and Associates Legal Group. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single line that made my entire body go cold. You are requested to attend the reading of the last will and testament of Richard Carter. I almost laughed. Because they had erased me from the funeral. But not from the will reading. The Office of Truth. The law office was located in a glass tower overlooking Manhattan. Everything inside screamed money, power, control. And when I entered the room, I saw them. My mother. My brother. A few relatives. All dressed in black again. Performing grief like it was a role they had rehearsed. And then, they saw me. The room shifted instantly. My mother leaned toward the lawyer. Whispered something urgently. My brother's jaw tightened. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like I had broken into their plan. The lawyer cleared his throat. Let us begin. He opened the document. My client, Richard Carter, leaves the following instructions. I barely listened at first. Until I heard my name. To my daughter, Lily Carter, I leave full ownership of Carter Holdings, offshore investment division. The room went silent. My mother's face froze. My brother turned sharply. The lawyer continued. And 45% controlling shares of Carter Enterprises, effective immediately upon my death. I felt my heart stop. Because Carter Enterprises wasn't just money. It was millions. A corporate empire. everything my father built. My brother suddenly stood up. "This is impossible." My mother whispered, "This is a mistake." But the lawyer didn't stop. He flipped the page. "Furthermore, I confirm that Lily Carter was removed from public family records under coercion. This decision was not mine." The room exploded. My breath caught. Coercion. That word didn't just hurt. It exposed something. I slowly turned toward them. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. My brother looked pale. Because now the truth was sitting in front of everyone. They didn't just ignore me. They removed me. Legally. Deliberately. The lawyer continued. And then came the final blow. If Lily Carter is excluded from any funeral arrangements or inheritance proceedings, all remaining assets are to be frozen pending legal investigation. Silence. Heavy, crushing. Final. My brother whispered, "You did this." I looked at him. For the first time in years. Really looked at him. "No," I said quietly. "I didn't do anything." "You did." The truth begins to crack. That night, I met the lawyer privately. He handed me a sealed folder. "My client left instructions for you specifically," he said. Inside were emails, recordings, documents, and one handwritten note. My father's handwriting. Shaky, weak, final. "Lily, if you are reading this, then I failed to protect you while I was alive." My throat tightened. I continued reading. "Your mother and brother convinced me you were unstable. They told me you were dangerous to the family reputation." I froze. That was the story they built. Not that I was gone, but that I was a threat. I later discovered they forged documents to remove you from company succession plans. My breath hitched. I tried to correct it, but I was already being isolated from decisions. "I am sorry I did not act sooner." The letter ended with, "Everything I built was meant to protect you. Instead, it was used to erase you." My hands were shaking. Not from sadness. From clarity. Everything suddenly made sense. The hospital exclusion. The funeral rejection. The rewritten contacts. The silence. It was never emotional. It was strategic. Revenge without noise. I didn't call them that night. I didn't confront them. I didn't scream. I simply asked the lawyer one question. "Can I legally take control now?" He nodded. "Yes, fully." The next morning, everything changed. Bank accounts froze. Company shares transferred. Board members called emergency meetings. News outlets began reporting. Unexpected leadership shift at Carter Enterprises. My brother tried, calling me 27 times. I didn't answer. My mother left voicemails that started angry and ended broken. Then came the final message. From Daniel. "We can fix this, just talk to us." I stared at it for a long time. Then replied with one sentence. "You already made sure I wasn't part of the family. Now I'm just part of the business." The final goodbye I wasn't invited to. Weeks later, I visited my father's grave alone. No cameras. No family. Just silence. I stood there for a long time. And finally said the words I never got to say. "You didn't fail me. You just trusted the wrong people longer than you should have." As I turned to leave, I realized something important. They tried to erase me from everything that mattered. The family. The funeral. The memory. But in the end, they forgot one thing. You can remove someone from a table, but not from a will, not from truth, and not from consequences.